Skull! My name's Alex Campbell, and you're watching the first episode of Dissecting Vikings. On this episode, I'll be dissecting the two-part Season 5 premiere, The Departed Part 1 and The Departed Part 2.
The consequences of Ragnar's death are not yet played out.
So I started watching Vikings back in 2013 when it first premiered. I thought the first season was really good and entertaining, but not great. By the time Season 2 came around, I was looking forward to it. And the quality just seemed to go up and up each season. Incidentally, while the quality of Game of Thrones went down and down each season. But by the time I got to the first part of Season 4, I was completely hooked. I loved Ragnar's storyline, the disenfranchisement of the king and his drug abuse.
I need you to give me what you have left.
There's nothing left.
You're lying again. Let me tell you, the only reason that I wanted you to come was because of the medicine. Now you get me no fucking gun! I'll fucking kill you! You hear me?
So my greatest fear going into this season is whether or not the show will be able to hold itself up without Ragnar. For me, Ragnar was the most compelling character and certainly the center point of all the storylines. Travis Fimmell's portrayal of Ragnar was so charismatic and he just held his own in every scene and drew all of your attention towards him.
What am I to do now? I hate you for leaving me.
But I think the answer to that question after watching these two episodes is yes. I think Vikings can still be good and still be quality and continue without Travis Fimmell. Although I do think it is a little bit of a knock to the series.
Have the last say. Me! Not you! Not you! Not you! And not you!
From this point on, I think the focus is going to be more on a divided set of storylines rather than a central character, which is okay by me.
There is going to be a war. A war between brothers. A war that will make me the king of Kattegat.
Now, one of these storylines is obviously going to be old Bjorny. I'm Australian, so I call him Bjorny, not Bjorn, obviously. Now, we don't see a lot of old Bjorny in this episode, but from what we do, I enjoyed. Rather than go home and say goodbye to his wife and his children and his mother, he's so ambitious to travel that he's just like, nah, you tell them I left. If I come back, I come back. If I go to Valhalla, I go to Valhalla. Skull.
And tell my mother and Toby and the children that I think of them. And I will return. If the gods will it. Skull. Skull.
So I like the addition of Jonathan Rhys Meyers to this season. He plays the character of Bishop Hageman, and I feel like the adversary that they're setting up to the Vikings is far more substantial to the ones in the past.
I needed a new character in the show who could at least inspire some hope in these dismal times, and when all the Saxon forces are splintered and incapable of responding to the great heathen army. So here we have this rather glamorous knight, this warrior bishop, as a possible redeeming feature for the Saxons and for England.
I feel like Ayla and Egbert weren't as great adversaries to the Vikings as they could have been, and them setting up more of a threat obviously raises the tension and stakes.
Hageman is hoping to convert the entire Viking world. They haven't received the blessing of the true Lord.
As much as I liked Egbert, I think that this is a great addition to the storyline and I look forward to it.
He is constantly at conflict with the nature of what God is, what Christ is, and what his purpose is.
Amen.
Also really like what they're setting up with Ivor, Uber and Vitzerg. I think that the taking of York is a great plotline, and obviously historically was a substantial settlement for the Vikings and part of their gathering and integration into English society.
We can build an impregnable fortress.
Where?
I've heard of a town called York.
I really like the tension that's set up between Ivor and Uber especially, and it makes that storyline far more interesting. They're not playing it over the top though, they're not just butting heads straight up. There's just that little bit of underlining tension just niggling there that you know is going to explode sooner or later.
It's not just the bodyguard, Ivor. The fact is, you never seem to consult us about anything. It's as if you think you are now the leader of our great army.
Now that Ragnar's gone, I also think that Ivor is a great addition to the cast. I think that his character is complex and interesting.
I don't believe that I didn't mean to kill Sigurd. But I didn't want to. He was my brother.
Ivor the Boneless was one of the most brutal and well-known of the Vikings. And I like this crucifix scene where he pours molten metal into the guy's mouth. Michael Hurst, who has written all the episodes of Vikings, which is really an amazing feat when you think about it. Pretty much every single other show has a set of writers, like a team of writers, but Michael Hurst, who is an immense historian and an amazing writer, writes every single episode of Vikings, and he's as historically true to these scenarios as he needs to be, and he's totally fulfilling the brutality of Ivor the Boneless with this scene. Also noticed in the sacking of York, they have the Nutrigrain scream. This scream has been in a lot of stuff, Broken Arrow and whatnot. I'm not sure whether it has a name, like the Wilhelm scream. I haven't stumbled across what it's called, but it was funny that it's just in this fucking sacking scene. Yeah! I can't do it. One of the best aspects of Vikings, in my opinion, is that they never glossed over the fact that these characters that we see week in and week out are brutal, bloodthirsty barbarians. They don't hold back at the sacking of York, and they didn't hold back in a lot of the other murder and rape scenes. It's an interesting insight into a brutal, bloodthirsty barbarian, and I like that it doesn't gloss over that fact, and these are our main characters and we grow to love them and understand them, but they're still brutal maniacs. Reminds me of Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. David Chase, the creator, said, sometimes you're meant to love Tony, sometimes you're meant to be utterly disgusted by Tony. And I think that's an interesting premise for The Sopranos and kind of mirrored in Vikings.
Son of a... Look, your suit's wrinkled. Here, let me fix it up for you. Ow! What are you screaming about? Free alterations?
So obviously you can't go over this show without talking about the Lagertha rape scene. This is the problem with females raping men. It's just as egregious and upfront and disturbing in theory, but then when you show a scene like this or think about it in other ways, it's different. Could you imagine going to the police and saying, Lagertha raped me? Be like, That's awesome, man. No, you don't understand. I feel disgusted and dirty and I can't wash it off. What do you mean? Are you gay? No. What are you talking about? She raped me. That's hot. That's hot. She didn't even let me come. That's not great, but still, I'd take it. So after Ragnar, Floki was my favorite character, and I'm really glad to see in this season that he gets his own storyline.
He has this kind of awakening. He's kind of reborn in a pagan sense. He regathers his strengths and he becomes strong again. He describes himself at the end of season 4 being completely broken and dead. 3 parts of him died with his wife, his daughter, and Ragnar, and now he's an empty shell, an empty vessel.
Farewell, my heart. Farewell.
I feel like in some of the middle seasons, I want to say 3 and 4, the character of Floki was a little bit unutilized and they didn't really know what to do with him. He was just kind of a background character. He was really bitter and twisted, which was good. But now that the show is opening up into more diverse storylines, I'm really glad that Floki is getting his due, you know, getting his chance to be Floki.
We need you just as much as our father needed you, but instead you choose to run away, you coward.
Stand up and say that to my face.
Oh! I really do like the back and forth between Floki and Ivar, but obviously their relationship is somewhat damaged after this departure. Also like how they address how these characters are becoming legends and myths with the departure of Floki and everyone screaming, "All hail Floki." From a filmmaking perspective, Vikings is amazing. I've always loved the cinematography and the pacing of it. It's always allowed the narrative to breathe and the cinematography to flourish. It's always had great establishing shots and really good scenery. It's not like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings where as the story progresses the narrative speeds up and speeds up and speeds up to the point where when you get to the end game it's going so fast that the tone has completely changed. I love all the crazy, surreal, magic mushroom scenes in this show. And even when they show the death of Ragnar, they didn't feel the need for the narrative to speed up. They didn't think that they need to just bash out this really quickly. There was all those great moments with Ragnar on the cart, talking to the cart driver who was blind. It's never sped up and lost that great surrealistic cinematography and that perfect drama pacing. One of my main concerns with Game of Thrones, now that it's sped up to the point of an action movie, is it doesn't have those great dialogue scenes with the characters anymore. It's not a drama anymore. Vikings at its heart is definitely still a drama, and the aspects of the show that I enjoy the most is the dialogue between these characters that are set up so well, whose motivations all make sense.
My heart is broken.
It will repair.
In conclusion, I think the story, the drama, the characters, and the plot lines are still at the escalating level that I've come to expect from Vikings. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that it's all written by Michael Hurst and that he doesn't feel rushed or compelled to finish up the story. I think that so far this show is able to hold its own without Ragnar, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Thank you for watching, and it'd really help out if you could like, subscribe, and comment. Until next week, Skål!